You're listening to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Hello, it's time to Krachel.
Happy April. Happy springtime.
April.
April. Dear Krachel in April. Oh, I don't know. I don't like any of this.
It's as if April was Krachel themed. It's Krachel.
I do love
we could
springtime
do that one every
though.
month. For May. Cray. Well, that's more accurate
March.
next month. I don't like that. March. Anyway, I like
October.
April, though. No. Get it out of here. I hate it. I shouldn't have started this.
It's your fault.
No, we're done. We're done. Oh, my God. Well, at least we're starting out professionally or whatever.
As always.
Okay, so we're just going to dive in because we've got 3 questions. I don't have anything else I care to talk about other than, well, then I'm just going back on what I just said. But I hope you enjoyed the hour and 40-minute bonus book club we had last week.
Yeah, that was a big honkin' one, but there was a lot to get into. Don't regret it.
So good. Please go back. If you haven't listened to that, I am imploring you that book made me want to retire. But it really made me want to go, you guys don't need me. Just read this book. You don't need me. You don't need me. You need this.
You need this. Your kids need this. Your parents need this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just hand
Your
this out to everyone
needed this.
for Christmas and call it a day. It really is that transformational. So if you missed it, go back for sure.
Please do. And know that it is one of the most important episodes I feel like we've ever done in terms of if you want to help yourself grow and get over shit, you need to listen to that, just so you know. In case you are intimidated by the length, I still think that you should go back and listen. Okay, as if I've ever been intimidated by length. LOL. I'm going to leave that there.
Just leave that one hanging.
I'm just going to leave that hanging right there. And that could be about books or whatever. Anyway, go ahead and read the first question.
We have good morning, Krachel. It actually is morning when we're recording, so that's good. I've been listening to your podcast and appreciate all the research and advice that you provide.
LOL research? Hold on. What? We don't research, but that's nice.
Given the long episode we just did last week.
Researched. Yes.
That's what I mean. Some of our book club episodes do include some research. So
hardly anything else does. So, okay. But I'm appreciative.
We have done a lot of our own observational research over the years.
I appreciate the appreciation. Continue.
My question is there a disclaimer or advice for individuals that are not meeting their basic needs? If I'm not making enough money in my current position with income to pay my rent, groceries, and living expenses, then I may not have clarity until I make enough money to live. The stresses of life and having a job that pays the bills will be a priority in the meantime. Just curious on how you encourage individuals that do not have clarity and are not making enough money to live. Again, great insight on your podcast, and that is from Corina.
Okay, Corina, I am really empathetic to this question, and it's one we have received over the years, especially when someone's interested in working with us or doing one of our courses. And there's always a certain line of advice that Kristen and I give people who come to us with this question, which I'm going to offer to you and anyone else who resonates with it. It is really understandably difficult to try to focus on thriving when you're in survival mode. Mm-hmm. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the base of your pyramid are your needs for food and shelter and water and safety. And if those are a little bit precarious, if you're struggling to make money in order to care for those things, you can't be focused there and simultaneously focused on the top of the pyramid, which is self-actualization, which is where clarity often comes from, is being able to focus on the bigger picture. So it's okay that this feels hard. It is hard. And it's really difficult, almost impossible to do them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And we've worked with a lot of people who have been in this place at some point in their life. And and frankly, I think Rachel and I have both been here for periods of our lives. And we recognize that right now, getting your basic survival needs met is priority. That is correct. That's why Maslow's hierarchy has that as the base. You can't focus on any of the higher level pieces of the pyramid until that first foundational piece is in place, which is your basic needs. If you are worried about how am I going to pay for groceries this month or this week, it's really hard to then think, what kind of work is going to be most fulfilling to me?
It doesn't matter. Like, frankly, at that point, as sad as it is, it doesn't matter because you just need to eat.
And so you said it beautifully yourself. Like, I probably am not going to have some of that higher level clarity until I'm making enough money to live. And that might be true right now. And that's okay. Again, a lot of people have had that experience, and there's phases of life when you're more in survival mode, and that might be financially, that might be emotionally, that might be physically. There's a lot of things that can come into life and throw you back into some version of survival mode. And if that's the phase you're in, that is completely understandable. Now, it doesn't mean forgo all of your self-care, forgo all of your intuitive impulses. It doesn't mean ignore all parts of yourself except just being a robotic machine who's focused on surviving. You can cut out little moments that you create a little bit of space for yourself in a way that doesn't cost any money, just to give a little bit of self-care, a little bit of emotional, mental reprieve. And you might have some insights or ideas that come in that can guide you into, how do I build that more stable net for myself so that I can advance to that next level of the Maslow's hierarchy and focus more on, okay, now that the bills are paid for, now what do I want next?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if you're frustrated that that's taking longer to get there than you might want.
I think, to make it really simple, Corina, you need two things when you're in that state. Having been there plenty of times myself. One is a plan, because that survival mode is manageable when you have a light at the end of the tunnel. When you're like, okay, I'm struggling right now, but I know that in 2 months, I'm going to hit the year mark at this job, and then I'm going to be qualified for higher paying roles, and I can start job searching and looking for something that would pay me more, so that now I have the ability to like stop hustling so much and focus more on my thriving and focusing on what would bring me clarity and fulfillment. So if you are currently slogging and you don't know how you're going to get out of it, that to me is the biggest issue, is that there needs to be some kind of, and I understand that this, when you're in survival mode, it can often be hard to pull back enough to focus on, how am I going to get out of this? But I have a sense, I don't know why, but I have a sense that she probably does have some semblance of a goal or a plan. Just the fact that she's even focused on clarity tells me that she can see at some point in the future, there's going to be a time where this isn't going to be true. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to emphasize, is that it's okay that you're in this now, but having some sort of an idea, or even just starting to brainstorm, okay, like how am I going to go from where I'm at now to having enough of a bandwidth emotionally, energetically, financially, to be able to focus on clarity. And another good question, like a subset of that question, is what is the difference for me between surviving and like having a little bit of relief? How much, if you want to put it in dollar amount, that would be really helpful, actually, because then it would help you understand the gap between where you are and where you're going. And then it would hopefully help you give more ideas about how to fill it.
That's a really important piece, actually, because I think there's been so many people who are in survival mode, and as soon as they start to make a little bit more, they spend a little bit more. And so they perpetually feel that it's like their lifestyle
rises
upward as their income is moving upward. And so they're always feeling like there's not enough. And so if you get clear ahead of time on, here's what I need, here's the number that I need, or here is the breakdown of what surviving would look like, where everything is covered, at that point, that's your mental cue to say, okay, now I get to start thinking about, what do I want next? And where do I want to put my energy? And how do I want to better align my working situation and my life situation with what feels a lot better to me? Otherwise, unconsciously, you might perpetuate the feeling of survival mode, even when you're bringing in more. I've seen that happen a lot.
I mean, even if you don't end up spending more, sometimes you just get caught in the survival mode mentality. And even when you actually tangibly, numerically have gotten to the point where you don't need to be in that mindset, you've practiced it so much that now you're just stuck in it. And so being able to sort of, being able to point out and draw the line of like, when I hit this line, I actually will be where I want to be. That's very helpful. And to that point of the mindset and being able to recognize when is it actually a reality and when is it just a mindset that's perpetuating, that doesn't need to perpetuate. I said there were two things. One, I want you to have a plan. And the second thing is I want you to do things that cost no money at all to help regulate your emotions and your nervous system. Because if you are in survival mode, you're going to be in fight or flight a lot, and you're going to be stressed a lot. And those are antithetical to calm and clarity and ideas and inspiration and intuition, all of the stuff that lives higher up on that triangle. So meditations. There are a million free ones on YouTube. You don't even have to download an app, though there are free apps where you can meditate, even 5 or 10 minutes a day, just to help calm and regulate your nervous system and help clear your mind would be super helpful, not just to manage the stress, but also to help increase the clarity, because clarity can come through with a calm mind, even if sometimes you are in survival mode.
Or it might be a 10-minute walk outside just to clear your mind and get a little, because there's a lot of nature itself is naturally very soothing to the nervous system. And so getting yourself out near nature it's like taking a lot of deep, deep breaths. It tells your nervous system, we're okay now.
Or like a free 20-minute yoga video on YouTube. If you want like a mind-body experience.
And one of the things that I know that this can be hard when you're in survival mode because you're working a lot and the logistics of life feel really hard. But as much as you can prioritize sleep, you are setting yourself up for being able to withstand this phase of life where there's a lot being asked of you and you could easily slip into burnout. And there's nothing more restorative than giving your body the rest that it needs.
Yes. Okay. Practical stuff. Little stuff. It doesn't have to be big. I hope that helps you, Corina. Okay. Question number 2. Okay. Dear Krachel, I've started job searching and have a couple of interviews coming up. An issue I've been facing when considering what to apply for is whether or not I should take a step back and do a less challenging job so I won't feel as overwhelmed by the combination of work and parenting, or if I should take a job that will advance my career, particularly financially. I have 2 interviews coming up where one is similar to a role I did in the past, but would be a pay cut. So therefore it would be easier. The other interview is for a job that would be a pay raise, but would require me to learn new skills and interact with more people. I think it's really the peopling that's making me hesitant about that last job. But I don't know if it's my fear that's holding me back or if the second job is truly not in alignment with what I want to do. How can I even tell the difference? Also, I'm mostly a thriver, if that helps. Brittany.
Okay, Brittany. It does help to know that you are mostly a thriver because, once again, as we know, passion profiles can really help you decide between different paths based on what's going to be a better fit for you. So if you were somebody who really valued growth and you were naturally really ambitious and your career was such an important big part of your life, then you might quickly get bored by a job that's something you've done before. What I'm sensing is because of this phase of life that you're already struggling with overwhelm between work and parenting, and you have more of that thriver energy. It feels like adding more pressure onto your plate right now might lead you a little closer to burnout than I would be comfortable with on your behalf. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer here, but I am saying be aware of the pressure that you would put on yourself in either direction. And the more we can mitigate that pressure, the easier it's going to be for you to balance the working aspect of your life and the parenting aspect of your life, and also just the being a human and adulting and taking care of life things.
So really the choice here is what cost do we want to pay? What sandwich do we want to eat? Doesn't it always come down to that? Do we want less money, but less pressure? Do we want a pay raise, more money? Potentially, probably, especially because she doesn't really, it seems like she's more introverted and the peopling thing is intimidating to her. She doesn't love the idea of that. The choice is between probably more money and more pressure. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, what's it worth to you to have more money? I think is the question. If you are, and we don't know Brittany's situation, but like if she's the sole breadwinner in her family or she's a single mom and she has a small kid or 2 or however many, then maybe more money is worth the increased pressure, even despite the fact that, yeah, it's going to put a little more strain on the balance between working and parenting.
Well, especially if this pay cut she's talking about puts her in a financially stressful situation. So
because that's more pressure too. That's just a different kind of pressure.
Question number 1 from Corina. If now you're worried about how am I going to pay the bills, how am I going to afford groceries for my kid, then now that's actually a lot more pressure than potentially some work stressors and some introverted challenges with people. Right. But if this pay cut still puts you in a comfortable financial situation, you would just prefer to make more money, but you're not necessarily willing to put yourself in a lot more mental and emotional stress, then that would also be fair.
Mm-hmm. I think that, again, similar advice to Corina for Brittany is, all right, what is, and this is obviously relevant to any of you guys too, what is the minimum number financially that I would be comfortable earning that would not put pressure on me, that would not make me feel financially worried or stressed or fearful? Like, where's the threshold? Anything under this line, this amount is going to put me in financial pressure. Anything above this, I'm going to be comfortable. Now, obviously, you might want to be more than comfortable. You might have aspirations of being like thriving and rolling around in dollar bills, which if that's what you want, I hope that eventually that is where you will be. But it's okay if right now you're in a phase of life where comfort and balance and low pressure, as like between work and parenting is your priority. It is okay if once your children or who, get older, it's not going to be as difficult to balance those things. And you decide, you know what? Yes, I'm gonna aim for something that might be more challenging and might come with a higher paycheck. Also, can we like maybe question the idea that just because something like there's a binary thinking going on here that I don't think is totally true, which is that in order to make more money, you have to work harder and do a more challenging job. I think there are plenty of thriver jobs that pay you a lot of money to do not that much. So it's okay if she doesn't choose either of these jobs if she gets offered them.
Can we also question that this first job has to be a pay cut? And I say that because I don't know the situation here. Maybe that's just an actual fact of the job she's applying for. But I think so many people, and particularly women, don't use their ability to negotiate or ask for more. So if you said, I've done a version of this job before, but it would be a pay cut, then can we consider asking for more money? Hey, I've done essentially this job before for more money. So I'm going to advocate for myself to make at least what I was making when I did this job the last time.
Right.
And you can negotiate up. So you don't have to just take whatever is offered to you.
Absolutely not.
In fact, you shouldn't just take whatever is offered to you. You should always ask. And the answer might be no. But if you ask, you could find yourself in a situation where you get less pressure and more money than you thought possible. So keep that in mind too. You can always advocate for yourself, and whatever is being offered to you might not be the final offer.
Okay. I hope that answers the question, or helps her come up with the answer to her own question.
Mm-hmm. Some questions back at her to consider to get clarity on what's going to be the least amount of pressure, and what do I really need in this phase of life?
I don't think, because she asked, like, is it my fear that's holding me back from the job that would pay me more, but also require me to learn more skills and interact with more people? Maybe I'm just avoiding that out of, like fear, rather like fear of like, can I do it? I don't get the sense that that's what's triggering her, or that's what's upsetting her. Upsetting. These are really, really big words, but I don't get the sense that that's where the misalignment is. I think the misalignment is I have a lot of thriver energy. I want balance, and I'm afraid that this job is not going to be balanced enough, that I'm going to have to give more time and energy to it via having to learn new skills and via having to interact with more people than I am willing to give. And that's not fear. That's just misalignment.
I would have to be someone that is not my normal way of being in order to get that higher paycheck.
That's not fear.
I could do it, but that would take a lot more out of me.
That's just distaste. You know what I mean? Like if some ugly bozo comes up and asks me out, I'm not afraid of going out with him. I just don't want to. Those are two different things. I'm just like, no. This is misaligned. Like, get away from me.
Bozo.
Yeah, ugly bozo. Yeah.
I don't know if this job is her ugly bozo or not, but if that's the feeling, it's like the distasteful feeling. Right. Then that doesn't have to mean I'm afraid of it. It might just mean that doesn't feel great to me.
I think the headline here is, and this is going to sound like a double negative, but it's just the way I want to say it, okay? Not everything that I don't want is fear, is coming from a place of fear. Right?
If I'm feeling resistance, it could be from fear, but sometimes it's just, I don't like that.
Right. So I don't want people to fall into a trap of thinking anytime I'm unattracted to something or I don't want something, it must be my fear talking. No, sometimes your intuition is saying, I just don't like that. That's not aligned with me. And I know that is the ultimate question of how we tell the difference between those two things. But
there's one thing of saying, I want that, but I'm scared that I won't be able to do it, versus, I should probably want that, but I don't really want it. Yeah, that's totally the difference we're talking about here.
And I get this vibe that Brittany's on the latter.
She can clarify if that's not true, but I get that same sense. So, okay. So question number 3. Dear Krachel, I have this very frustrating pattern I could use your help untangling. I always think I'm getting close to what I want, and then I get really excited because I think it's happening. And then it slips out of my grasp. What am I doing wrong? This is from Slippage in the System.
Oh, and now let's talk about handsome bozos, because I have experience with those.
It's happening. Oh, we all know that feeling of like, oh, this is it. This is finally the thing I've been wanting. And then it does not work out the way you were expecting.
How many times have I done that? Well, not that many, but enough. Forever Alone season 2 coming at some point in the, I don't know, future.
And how many times have we done that in business too? To think like, this is it. This is the thing. It's happening. Or in life in general. So it's frustrating. You're right. It is a very frustrating pattern. We've all been there.
What are you doing wrong? Well, I don't really like that question because I don't like to tell people, well, you're doing something wrong. But okay, there is one thing you're probably doing wrong that I have done wrong many times, and Kristen's done wrong, and pretty much everyone listening to this has probably done wrong at some point, which is just assuming that when one thing happens, everything is happening. Like, saying it's happening is what you're doing wrong. Okay? So, like, that is, if we could just cut that out, it's okay to get excited about something that seems promising. It's okay to feel intrigued. It's okay to feel like, wow, wait, is something changing here? I think where we get really tripped up is that we then make really broad sweeping assumptions about what this must mean before we have enough information yet. And what we probably need, which we don't want to hear, and I certainly don't, is a little more patience to see how this thing plays out. So instead of going out on a date or two with someone and then going, oh my God, I think this is like my husband. Maybe you just go, oh, I really like him. He seems like a cool guy. I'd like to go out with him again. It's the needing to know what this means for like a month, 3 months, 6 months, 50 years into the future that's creating the it's happening sensation. If you're able to stay a little bit more present and just go, you know what? I don't know what's happening, but this feels nice. I'd like to see what happens next. That's a more healthy take on excitement. I think it's like not letting the excitement run away with us. That's probably the issue here.
I cannot tell you the number of times clients have thought they found the job. And they go through and they're in the last round of interviews and it feels like it's totally aligned and they're like, this is it. I finally found it. And then they go with somebody else. And it's like, it's that same feeling of like, okay, it's finally happening. It's finally happening. It's right there. And then it doesn't work out. And you're like, well, what the hell? And it is frustrating. But if you could, first of all, I've also had multiple experiences, and you don't always get this confirmation, but I've had enough experiences personally, and I've seen enough examples that take my word for it. Usually when it doesn't work out, it's a blessing in disguise. You might find out later, ooh, that place sounded really cool, or that person seemed really awesome. And then come to find out, there were some red flags that I did not see right off the bat. And thank God I dodged a bullet. So often when things aren't working out, it actually is working out exactly as you would have hoped. And you're probably saving yourself a lot of time and a lot of angst from wanting that particular set of circumstances to work out, when really there was something a lot better if you just held out for a bit. But what I want, if I could just tweak your response to exciting things happening, I think that would make all the difference. Instead of feeling like, ooh, okay, something exciting is happening. This is it. This is it. It's finally happening. If instead in your mind, you just thought, I'm on the right track. That's a good sign. Exciting things are happening. I'm on the right track. Right. It might be this, or it might be the next one, or it might be the one after that. I don't know, but these are all signs that I'm on the right track. That would take so much pressure off of that particular circumstance to have to work out, but it can be a clue that you're getting a lot closer to what you really want. because sometimes you need multiple variations of things to get more clarity about, okay, that was really close. Now, if we could just tweak this a little bit, that would be awesome. Those almost, but not quite situations can be incredibly clarifying, and they can also make it incredibly gratifying when you get what you really want, because now you can compare it to, wow, I thought that was good. This is incredible. So nothing is going wrong, except that you assume you're missing the boat. When I'm thinking you're getting closer and closer.
Right. Yes, exactly. The problem is not like she thinks it's a problem that this keeps happening, but it's normal to have a series of things that excite you and then fall through. That's not the problem. The problem, or where you're creating unnecessary suffering, is in constantly labeling every exciting thing as it's happening now. That's where the suffering is happening. And so then what we might have to question, to Kristen's point, is why is it that I think that like I should just have an idea and then I should find something, and then the first thing I find should be it? That's not realistic, right? It's not realistic that the first job you apply for is going to be like a perfect 10 out of 10 dream job. You're going to have to go through a series of job searching and interviews, and you're going to have to get rejected, and you're going to get let down. You're going to go through a whole hero's journey. Okay. Same with dating. And you don't even have to date that much, but like, want to know why I've been humbled on this front? Because I hated the idea that I couldn't just meet one person and then that person be it. And so with that mindset, guess what happens? A couple of handsome bozos, come into your orbit, and you assume, oh, well, like they're this and they're this and they check all these boxes, so this must be it, right? Your brain is wired to try to draw conclusions and make like logical assumptions based on the data it is being given. And that's not actually how life works. That works for math problems. It doesn't really work for jobs or relationships or whatever. You're not meant to just have one experience and then it work and then that be it. So to normalize the process of getting closer and closer and closer to something and having a series of things get almost there and then not work out, that's totally fine. You don't have to like it. You don't have to enjoy every bit of that process, but it is normal. And if we can just pull back from labeling those experiences as it's happening, that will be the thing that actually eases your mind the most.
And if it makes you feel a little bit better, not only is it normal to feel like you're kind of getting close to what you want, but then it doesn't quite work out a few times before it does work out.
Or maybe more than a few.
Or maybe more than a few. Way more than you want. Always that. Always that.
More than you want.
It to be the first experience and you want it immediate. It's always going to take longer, and there's always going to be more steps in the process than you want, because we want immediate gratification. But not only is it normal what you're going through, if you can remind yourself, ultimately, this is going to be more satisfying, that might help alleviate some of the temporary frustration. Because the reality is if every time you had a desire, you instantly got it, and we say we want instant gratification, but if we really had instant gratification all of the time, there wouldn't be a lot of satisfaction, because you would never have the experience of, oh man, I thought that was it, but it wasn't it. And then when I do get it, I'm so much more grateful for what I did get, because I saw what I see comparison. I see the contrast of almost what I wanted or not having what I wanted. So now when I'm finally there, wow, do I feel extra appreciative and grateful? Or now I feel like I see why all those things had to happen. There's satisfaction in that journey, even though it's also allowed to be frustrating. Both are true. Yeah. But you can tell yourself,
the universe is basically foreplaying you, and it's just a really long process.
But the universe knows what's going to completely delight you in the end. So just trust that.
Yeah. Okay. My heart goes out.
It's a good question, though. I know we all
do it.
We all do it. Had that exact experience of like, come on, man.
And I thought I was there. And I've sworn up and down I'm not going to do it again. We both know human. I'm going to.
We're all going to do it. We're all human.
I'm going to do it.
But just tell yourself, okay, this if not this,
right?
Wow, then it's going to be even better than this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be even more satisfied.
While also allowed to be disappointed when things don't, like, you're allowed to have every human reaction to disappointment, frustration, rage, sadness. All of it's totally fine. And if it didn't happen, then it wasn't the thing that was supposed to happen. So keep on keeping on.
Yep. So just remember, instead of thinking, oh, this is it, this is happening, just tell yourself, this is a good sign I'm on the right track.
I like this. This feels good. I'm going to keep going down this path. Let's see what happens. Okay. Open-mindedness and curiosity rather than coming to conclusions. It's happening is a conclusion. Let's see what's happening is a continuation of the story. And the story is just beginning when most of us say it's happening, which is very conclusive. So it's like opening a book and going, I know what's going to happen at the end of this. And you're like, well, you could have some guesses and you might be right. But in a lot of books, there's going to be some twists and turns you did not see coming. And if you don't flip to the end of the book, you are not going to totally know how it concludes.
Or if you read the end of the book, it's not very satisfying because you don't know all the things that happened that led up to that made that a really satisfying ending. You want to read the book. You don't want to just read the last page. That's not fun.
Right. So read the book. Don't flip to the last page and say, it's happening. I've reached my conclusion when I have very little data to corroborate it. Oh, but it's so tricky because sometimes it feels like we have so much data, even though we've only known someone for like a week. It's like you don't have any data when you've known someone for a week. You don't have as much as you think you do at any rate. We need more. We need more time to go by to gather enough to really be able to make any conclusions. Anyway, okay. Good talk.
As always, if you got something out of, I'm sure you got something out of one of these. There was a whole variety today.
I pray you got something out of something in this.
Let us know what resonated, because we always like to hear that. And if you're one of these Dear Krachel question askers or a previous one and you want to give us an update, we always love a good update. What happened, as a result of hearing our Dear Krachel wisdom? Come back and let us know. And we will be back next week with a normal person episode. This is a really fun one. We're going to be interviewing Austin Rose, who has gone on some truly, he's done like 10 lifetimes of bucket list exploring and adventuring. And he's going to tell you how you can do that yourself in a really approachable way. So if you have been feeling a little bit bored, or you just want to shake things up in your life a little bit, but you don't really know how, he's going to give you a ton of inspiration and some very concrete ways that you can go about checking off your own bucket list items. So that's next week.
Okay. See you then. Happy Krachel.
Bye-bye.